Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Today, if I seem a little darker, it's because the background is so bright, so I darkened it up a little bit there. But anyways, today we are going to do a deck profile. And the deck profile today is going to be for ADP Zacian Updated Edition, which is for Rebel Clash. And what I'll say before any of this is, look, ADP Zacian, the bulk of it is, I think, largely unchanged. I think what you might see is ADP Caparajah VMAX. So, like, not even relying that much on Zacian, having just one or two of those and then focusing more on the Caparajah VMAX. But if you really are still into ADP Zacian, where Zacian is your main attacker for the most part, this is an updated build for that. And yeah, if you like this video, definitely subscribe and all that jazz. But we have a battle video with this profile as well. It's either out or it's coming out right after this, but it's going to be this versus Dragapult VMAX, which I think is a really interesting battle. But without further ado, let's just get into any of the updates that I think are interesting to think about for when Rebel Clash actually comes out. All right, so let's start with your Pokemon. I have, at this point, a 3 count of Jirachi. Kind of see it as a little bit of a glare there, but yeah, that's Jirachi. 3 of those. You could go with 4. You find the space somewhere, and then yeah, 4 Jirachi. So certainly wouldn't be that crazy to put 4 Jirachi in here, but I have 3. I'm just trying to make some space. Then we have 2 ADPs. That's again pretty standard to have 2 ADPs. Use Altered Creation. That's the whole idea behind ADP blank, right? Whatever the partner Pokemon you're thinking about using might be. And then we have 3 of the Zacian Vs. So Zacian obviously has Intrepid Sword, which lets you draw 3 cards to end your turn, accelerates whatever metal energy you find there. Yeah, and its first attack, I should say, its only attack, Brave Blade does 230. So really great attacker. It's why the deck currently is one of the best decks in the format, to be frank. But yeah, all of this is pretty stock standard. Here's where I diverge a little bit. I am actually putting in a one of Zamazenta V in this. Now, when Sword and Shield came out, I thought, oh, this could be interesting, but we got to really wait and see if there's any valid VMAX decks. I think Dragapult VMAX, Toxtricity VMAX are the first 2 proper VMAX decks that will emerge, that will be viable to some degree. They've seen success in Japan, and then over time, Zamazenta will be more and more powerful as more VMAXs are used. So what Zamazenta V does, if you don't know, Dauntless Shield prevents all damage done to that Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon VMAX. So it basically is like a kind of a Keldeo for VMAX Pokemon. Yeah, and then its first attack, Assault Tackle, does 130, and you discard a special energy from the opponent's active Pokemon. When you combine this with ADP, that 130 jumps to 160. 160 will knock out, some relevant VMAX Pokemon in 2 shots. 160 also knocks out Dedennes, so that's a nice thing about this. And removing special energy is a nice bonus. So we have 1 Zamazenta V. That's the first real update, really. And then we are going to run a 1-1 line of the Caparajah V and the Caparajah V Max. The V does 90 plus 90. It does 180 is for 4. Really, this is the one you're going for. 340 HP is the difference maker here. Previously, the highest HP you had was 280. You could maybe change some things with Metal Frying Pan, but for the most part, 280 was all you're going. So you did have to worry about things getting knocked out. So in a mirror match, this really makes a huge difference in not getting immediately KO'd. 240 damage is also great because add 30 to that, and all of a sudden you're hitting 270. 1 tick of Shrine damage, and that knocks out every single tag team Pokemon, basically. So just a 1-1 line of that, though. Again, this is still an ADP Zacian that focuses on the Zacian. So you sort of see where I'm going there. And then we have 1 Dedenne. I know you could try to find space for 2. A lot of people like that, but 1 Dedenne is fine for now. 1 Oranguru because Oranguru is great, especially in this deck, and 1 Eldegoss V. Now, Eldegoss V has an ability that you can't read. It's Japanese unless you read Japanese. Its ability says when this goes from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may grab a supporter card from your discard pile and put it into your hand. Kind of like a reverse Tapu Lele. Its first attack, its only attack does 50 damage for 2 colors, so you could use it. And what that does is it shuffles this card and all cards attached to it into the deck. So allows you to reuse it potentially. So that's, that's the Pokemon lineup. Always you could find room for a variety of different tech cards if you think the meta needs it. Absols, you've got Fiones. Yeah, you've got a whole range of cards you could try to tech in here, but this is a good starting point, I think. So, those are the Pokemon. Let's get to the supporters. For this version, I have prioritized consistency as much as possible, so we have 4 Professor's Research. Once the meta develops a little bit, and once this type of deck gets refined by whomever, you could maybe drop that down to a 3 count, but for now, 4 feels right. We have 3 Marnies. And now we get to some of the new stuff. We have 2 Boss's Orders. Boss's Orders lets you take a Pokemon, one of your opponent's Pokemon from their bench and bring it to their active. So it's a gusting card. Super good in a deck that takes extra prizes especially. So a 2 count with the Eldegoss as backup feels pretty good. And then we have 1 Mallow and Lana to both switch and heal. Obviously the benefits of that are for a variety of situations, but you now have a Pokemon that definitely won't get knocked out in one hit, so you have potentially a valid use for Mallow and Lana. So, Mallow and Lana as a single supporter. Now, let's get to the other cards in the deck. These will be pretty stock standard. We have 4 Quick Balls to help you find your basics. We have 2 Pokemon Communications to help you find any Pokemon potentially, but really it's there for the Copperajah V Max. It's the only way that you're going to be able to search that out directly. For energy, we have energy spinners, 2 of them, and 2 energy switches, because with things like Team Yell Grunt, etc. running around, crushing hammers, you may not be able to attach, pass, attach, attack. You may have to get both of the attachments onto ADP all at once to Altered Creation. So that's why we have the energy switch and the energy spinners. And yes, we are running the basic energy, not special energy. So energy spinner is good for finding your water energy. Now we have 4 switches, which pretty critical card in this deck. We have 4 metal saucers, which you're running a metal deck. Why wouldn't you? In terms of our stadiums, you have 1 Shrine of Punishment and 1 Chaotic Swell. Now, the Shrine of Punishment, still great on GX tag teams, things like that, to make up the math. Chaotic Swell is an interesting one. I know some people run 2 shrines. I think with more Vs and VMAXs coming on board, it's not necessary. Chaotic Swell just also feels good because it will disrupt your opponent to some degree. And against things like Toxtricity VMAX, once you put a Swell down, if you or they try to bump it at some point with a Thunder Mountain or anything, it will discard both stadiums, so they will be left with no stadium in the active. Now, Marshadow does counteract that, but for now that feels all right. And then for the other cards, we have 1 Great Catcher, because sometimes you just need to gust something up without a supporter. We have 1 Metal Frying Pan, 1 Escape Board, and then this is another new one. I'm including a single copy of Metal Goggles. You might start to see this pop up more and more in metal decks. What it does is it's similar to Metal Frying Pan in that it stops 30 damage, right? But it also stops opponents' attacks and abilities putting damage counters on it. So Dragapult, VMAX, Zigzagoons, etc. would not be able to put damage counters onto whatever Pokemon this card is attached to. I think that's going to be more and more relevant because things like Mew does not stop Dragapult's 5 damage counter spread. So Metal Goggles could be a really interesting card that you might start seeing pop up more and more. Now, we get to the energy. This is probably the least exciting part of all this, but we have, is this 5? I believe this is 10 metal energy. And just the 2 water energy still. 10 metal, 2 water. I have normally been playing with 9 metal. I have upped it to 10 because Copperage of VMAX's main attack needs 4 metal energy. So I figured if one of your potential attackers needs an extra energy rather than over like everyone else, just add in an extra metal energy for that. Now, you could substitute that metal, that 10th metal, for a 3rd water, because both Copperage of VMAX and Zamazenta V, there we go. They both take one of their energy can be colorless, so it could be the water energy. So having another water energy in here will make it more consistent, and it won't be a complete waste of an energy. So that might be a thing you consider, is a 3rd water energy over the metal, but it's entirely up to you. But that is going to do it for this deck profile. Hopefully this all makes sense. Again, somewhat unrefined update to the list. I think as the meta evolves, you might see different cards being played. Yeah, it just sort of depends on where the meta goes. But this is a good starting point if you're thinking about what your deck might look like after Rebel Clash comes out. And yeah, let me know what you think about this deck, and check out the battle video where this deck plays a Dragapult VMAX deck, and see how that goes. But until next time, I will see y'all later. Carpe awesome.